Christmas lights flickered through the window. The smell of roasted turkey filled the air. I had not been home in 6 years, but this time felt different. I carried a secret with me, something I had built from nothing. 21 coffee shops across 3 states. I thought my family would finally see me, finally be proud. I was wrong. What happened at that dinner table changed everything. Some bridges once burned can never be rebuilt. Before we dive into this story, let me know in the comments where you are watching from today. If you have ever felt overlooked by the people who should love you most, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Stay with me until the very end to find out what was inside the letter my lawyer sent them. Trust me, it was not what anyone expected. Growing up in a small town in Ohio, I learned early that love in my family came with conditions. My father Donald spent 35 years as a construction engineer before retiring. He was a practical man who measured everything in results, and somehow I never seemed to measure up. My mother Patricia was a homemaker who kept the peace by keeping quiet. She loved me in her own way, I suppose, but she never once stood up for me. Then there was Kevin, my younger brother. 4 years separated us, but it might as well have been a universe. The day he was born, I became invisible. Every conversation at dinner revolved around Kevin. Every family photo centered on him. My father would ruffle his hair and say things like, "Kevin will carry on the family name. He needs more support than you do." I would sit there 8 years old, wondering what I had done wrong. The day I graduated from high school should have been one of the proudest moments of my life. I was valedictorian. I had worked so hard, staying up late, studying, pushing myself to be perfect. But when I walked across that stage to receive my diploma, the seats where my parents should have been sitting were empty. Kevin had a football game that afternoon, a regular season game that meant nothing, but they chose him. They always chose him. That summer, I filled out my own college applications. I researched scholarships alone in my bedroom while my family watched Kevin practice in the backyard. When the acceptance letter came from Portland State University, along with a partial scholarship, I showed it to my father. He barely looked up from the television. "Good," he said. "At least you will not be a burden." Those words stayed with me for years. The day I turned 18, I packed everything I owned into 2 suitcases. $400 sat in my pocket money I had saved from babysitting and odd jobs. Nobody tried to stop me. Nobody asked where I was going. My mother hugged me briefly at the door, and my father gave me a nod from his armchair. Kevin was out with friends. He did not even say goodbye. I took a Greyhound bus to Portland, Oregon. The city was gray and rainy, nothing like the flat farmlands of Ohio. But it felt like freedom. I found a room to rent in a crowded apartment with 3 other girls. The walls were thin, the kitchen was always dirty, but it was mine. I had escaped. Finding work was harder than I expected. I applied to dozens of places before a small coffee shop called Morning Brew gave me a chance. The owner was a woman named Eleanor, 67 years old, with silver hair and hands that shook slightly when she poured the espresso. She had lost her husband to a heart attack 10 years earlier and ran the shop alone ever since. Eleanor saw something in me that I did not see in myself. She taught me how to pull the perfect shot, how to steam milk until it was smooth as silk, how to greet customers in a way that made them feel at home. But more than that, she taught me about business. She showed me her accounting books, explained how to manage inventory, how to negotiate with suppliers, how to build something that would last. For 3 years, I worked alongside Eleanor. I arrived before dawn and left after dark. I saved every penny I could, dreaming of someday having my own place. Eleanor became the family I never had. She remembered my birthday. She asked about my dreams. She believed in me. Then she got sick. Pancreatic cancer, the doctors said. 6 months, maybe less. I held her hand in the hospital room, tears streaming down my face as she told me her final wish. She wanted me to have the shop, not as a gift but as a responsibility. She sold it to me for $1 along with a loan of $50,000 that I would repay over time. The shop was mine, but so was the weight of her legacy. Eleanor passed away on a Tuesday morning in April. I was 21 years old, alone in the world, and suddenly the owner of a coffee shop I could barely afford to keep running. The first 2 years were brutal. I worked 16-hour days, 7 days a week. Some nights I slept on a cot in the back storage room because I could not afford both rent and inventory. I learned to fix the espresso machine myself because repair costs were too high. I ate day-old pastries for dinner and called it fine dining. But slowly, things began to change. Word spread about the little shop with the best coffee in the neighborhood. Regulars became friends. Friends brought friends. By the end of year 3, I had enough saved to think about expansion. By year 4, I opened a second location. By year 7, I had 5 shops across Portland. Now, 16 years after Eleanor handed me those keys, I owned 21 coffee shops spread across Oregon, Washington, and California. The company was called Eleanor's Legacy, and it brought in over $8 million in revenue each year. I employed more than 200 people. I had built an empire from nothing, and my family had no idea. Not once in 16 years did they ask what I was doing. Not once did they call to check on me. Every Christmas I sent a card. Every birthday I sent a text. The responses were always brief. Fine, busy, talk soon. But we never did. Then, in November, something unexpected arrived in my mailbox. A Christmas card from my mother. The handwriting was shaky, older than I remembered. Inside, she had written just one line. It would be nice to have the whole family together this year. I stared at that card for a long time. Part of me wanted to throw it away, to protect myself from the disappointment I knew would come. But another part of me, the little girl who still wanted her parents to see her, could not let go. Maybe things had changed. Maybe this was my chance to show them who I had become. I booked a flight to Ohio for December 23rd. The night before I left, I sat in my apartment looking through photos on my phone. Pictures of my shops, my employees, the life I had built. I imagined showing them to my father, watching his eyes widen with surprise. I imagined my mother hugging me tight, telling me she was proud. I even imagined Kevin looking at me with something other than dismissal. I should have known better. The flight landed in Columbus on a cold December afternoon. Snow dusted the runway, and the air had that sharp bite I remembered from childhood. I rented a car and drove the familiar roads to my parents' house, my heart beating faster with each mile. The house looked exactly the same. 2 stories, white paint peeling slightly at the corners, a Christmas tree glowing through the front window. Kevin's silver sedan sat in the best spot on the driveway closest to the door. I parked on the street. My mother answered my knock with a thin smile. "Oh, you made it," she said, stepping aside to let me in. "Come in, it is cold. No hug, no warmth, just efficiency." The living room smelled like pine needles and cinnamon. My father sat in his usual armchair watching a football game. He glanced up when I entered and gave a single nod before turning back to the screen. That was his greeting, a nod. Kevin appeared from the kitchen with a woman I did not recognize. "This is Amanda," he announced, his arm around her waist. "We got engaged last month." Everyone gathered around her immediately, admiring the diamond ring on her finger, asking about wedding plans, telling her how lucky Kevin was to find someone so perfect. I stood near the doorway holding my coat, watching the scene unfold. Nobody asked about my flight. Nobody asked about my life. I might as well have been a piece of furniture. Dinner was served at 6 o'clock sharp. My mother had prepared the usual spread: turkey, mashed potatoes, green beans, cranberry sauce. The table was set for 6, and I noticed my place was at the far corner away from the center where my parents Kevin and Amanda sat. The conversation revolved around Kevin, as always. He had been promoted to manager at the real estate company where our father's friend had given him a job years ago. Our father clapped him on the shoulder. "That is my boy," he said, his voice full of pride. "I always knew you would make it big." Kevin talked about his plans to buy a bigger house, a newer car. Amanda laughed at his jokes and touched his arm. My mother beamed at them both. "We are so blessed to have you," she said to Kevin, and the words cut through me like a blade. I waited for a pause in the conversation. When it came, I cleared my throat. "I have some news too," I said. "I have been building something over the years." Everyone turned to look at me. Their expressions ranged from surprise to mild annoyance, as if they had forgotten I was there. "I own a chain of coffee shops now," I continued. 21 locations across 3 states. Silence. For 3 long seconds nobody spoke. Then Kevin laughed. It was a sharp, dismissive sound. 21 coffee shops, Samantha, come on. You were always the dreamer." My father set down his fork. "Where would you get money for that? You left home with nothing." "I built it," I said, keeping my voice steady. "From the ground up. It took 16 years, but I did it." My father shook his head. "Samantha, this is Christmas dinner. It is not the time for made-up stories. If you want attention, there are better ways than lying." Your brother actually worked hard for his success, he continued. Do not try to compete with fairy tales. Kevin leaned back in his chair, smirking. 21. Really? Next, you will say you own a private jet too. He nudged Amanda, who covered her mouth to hide a giggle. Remember when she said she would become a doctor? That lasted about a week. I looked at my mother, hoping she would defend me. She stared at her plate. Let us just enjoy dinner, she said quietly. Samantha, have some more turkey. That was it. That was her response. Silence. Avoidance. The same thing she had done my entire life. I stood up slowly. I should not have come, I said. I walked to the front door and grabbed my coat. My father called after me. Do not be dramatic. Sit down and eat. I did not turn around. I did not say goodbye. I drove to the nearest hotel, checked into a room, and sat on the edge of the bed in the dark. No tears came. There was nothing left to cry about, just emptiness where hope used to be. I flew back to Portland the next morning, Christmas Day. While other families opened presents and shared laughter, I sat alone in my apartment, staring out at the rain. I told myself it did not matter. I had my shops, my employees, my life. I did not need their approval. But the wound was fresh, and it ached more than I wanted to admit. The week between Christmas and New Year passed in a blur of work. I threw myself into meetings with my managers, reviewed financial reports, planned the opening of our 22nd location in San Francisco. Staying busy helped. It always had. On January 2nd, I was working at our flagship store in downtown Portland. It was a beautiful space, 3,000 square feet of exposed brick and warm lighting. The afternoon rush had just ended, and I was helping restock the pastry case when one of my employees approached me. Samantha, there are 2 men asking for you. They say they are family. My stomach dropped. I looked toward the front windows and saw them. My father and Kevin standing on the sidewalk, peering through the glass at the bustling cafe inside. For a moment I considered telling my employee to say I was not there. But I was done hiding. I was done being the one who ran away. I wiped my hands on my apron and walked toward the door. They stepped inside, and I watched their faces as they took in the surroundings. The gleaming espresso machines, the elegant furniture, the long line of customers waiting to order. Kevin whispered something to my father, and I caught the words, "This is actually real." My father spotted me and straightened his shoulders, trying to look unimpressed. "We need to talk," he said. I led them to a table in the corner, away from the other customers. "How did you find me?" I asked. Kevin shifted in his seat. "We Googled Eleanor's legacy. Your name is on the business registration." I waited, saying nothing. My father leaned forward. "Why did you not tell us the truth sooner? We could have helped." I almost laughed. "Helped?" I repeated. "When have you ever helped me?" Kevin jumped in quickly. "After you left Christmas dinner, I got curious. I did some research." He pulled out his phone, showing me screenshots of news articles about my company. 21 locations. 8 million in annual revenue. Over 200 employees. This is impressive, Samantha. Really? We had no idea. My father nodded. "We are family," he said. "We should be part of this." I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. He was serious. "Kevin and I have been talking," my father continued. "We want to invest. We can help you expand faster. Kevin has connections in real estate. He can find you prime locations. We can be partners," Kevin added eagerly. 50-50. It is fair." I let the silence stretch between us. They shifted uncomfortably, waiting for my response. "You called me a liar," I said finally. "A week ago at that dinner table you laughed at me. Both of you." My father opened his mouth to speak, but I raised my hand. "I built this from nothing. I worked 16-hour days for years. I slept in the back of my first shop because I could not afford rent. I learned to fix broken equipment with my own hands. I did everything alone." My voice did not waver. "You were not there when I needed support. You do not get to show up now and ask for a share." Kevin tried to interrupt. "Samantha, we were just surprised. We did not mean to. You meant every word I said. I saw it in your faces. You thought I was nothing. You still think I am nothing, except now I have something you want." I stood up from the table. "I think you should leave." My father's face reddened. "You are making a mistake. Family is family." "Family does not mock you at Christmas dinner," I replied. "Family does not call you a liar when you try to share your success. I have built my own family here. People who believe in me. People who show up. I gestured toward the door. Please leave. I have a business to run. Kevin grabbed my arm. Samantha, can we at least? I pulled away. Do not touch me. You made your choice years ago. All of you did. Now I am making mine. They left. I watched them through the window, climbing into a rental car and driving away. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From relief. That evening I called my lawyer Margaret. She had been with me for 5 years, helping navigate contracts and expansions. I trusted her completely. I need you to send something to my father and brother, I said, but it is not a cease and desist. Then what is it? She asked, confused. I explained what I wanted. She listened, without interrupting, and when I finished, she said, I will have it ready by tomorrow. 1 week later, my father and Kevin received a thick envelope from the law offices of Margaret Sullivan sent on behalf of Samantha Lawson. They probably expected legal threats, or maybe a buyout offer. What they found inside was something else entirely. Inside the envelope were photographs. Old photographs I had kept for years tucked away in a box I rarely opened. The first showed me at 6 years old standing alone on a stage at my elementary school. I had just received an award for academic excellence. In the audience behind me, rows of proud parents smiled. My parents were not among them. The second was from a football game when I was 14. Kevin's team had made the playoffs, and the whole family went to cheer him on. In the photo, I sat alone on the bleachers 3 rows back from my parents and their friends, with no one beside me. The third was my high school graduation. A selfie I took outside the auditorium, still wearing my cap and gown. The valedictorian alone with no family to celebrate. The fourth showed me at 22 standing in front of Morning Brew, the day I officially took over. Beside me was Eleanor, thin and tired from chemotherapy but smiling. My real family, the only person who came. Beneath the photos was a letter written in my own hand. Dear Father and Kevin, these photos are from the moments you were not there. Every milestone, every achievement, every struggle I faced alone. I do not send this to make you feel guilty. I send this so you understand I do not need your approval anymore. I stopped needing it years ago. I built my life without you, and I am at peace with that. This is not goodbye. This is simply the truth. Samantha, I never received a response. No phone calls. No emails. No more surprise visits. Part of me wondered if my father ever looked at those photos, if he felt anything when he saw them, but it did not matter anymore. I had said what I needed to say. Spring arrived in Portland, and with it, the opening of our 22nd location in San Francisco. The launch party was filled with employees, partners, and friends I had made along the way. Standing in that beautiful new space, I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Peace. That Christmas, I did not fly to Ohio. Instead, I hosted a dinner at the flagship store for employees who had nowhere else to go. We decorated the space with lights and garlands. We cooked together, ate together, laughed together. These were the people who had shown up for me, who believed in me when no one else did. I realized that family is not always the people who share your blood. It is the people who choose to stand beside you, who celebrate your victories and support you through your failures. Eleanor taught me that. My employees reminded me every day. I spent years believing that one day my family would see me, really see me. I thought if I worked hard enough, achieved enough, became enough, they would finally understand my worth. But I learned something important along the way. You cannot make people value you. You can only value yourself. The people who mock your dreams do not deserve a seat at the table when those dreams come true. Success is not about proving others wrong. It is about proving yourself right. It is about building a life you are proud of, regardless of who is watching. Sometimes I wonder about my father and Kevin. I wonder if they ever regret the choices they made, the moments they missed, the daughter and sister they pushed away. But those thoughts grow quieter with each passing year. I have let go of the need for answers. I have let go of the anger. I have 22 coffee shops now. I have a team that feels like family. I have a life built entirely with my own hands. And that is more than enough. If you are out there right now waiting for someone to believe in you, I have one piece of advice. Stop waiting. Believe in yourself first. Do the work. Build the dream. The right people will find you along the way. Thank you for listening to my story. I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt invisible to the people who should love you most? How did you find your own path? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it today. Your support means the world to me. Wishing you strength, courage, and the wisdom to know your own worth. Until next time, take care of yourself.